board game captain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we are going to be reviewing the core rulebook for Pathfinder Second Edition. I'm sorry this one took a little while, but I wanted to get to the table and play it a little bit before I reviewed it, which I have now. So now we are totally ready to review this book. And so the Pathfinder Core Rulebook, 2nd edition, is brought to you by Paizo. And I want to throw a big thank you out to Paizo for sending me this review copy to play with and have fun with and do some video content on. This game was designed by Logan Bonner, Jason Bullman, Stephen Radney-macfarland, and
Mark
Sifter. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Yeah. I hope you're pronouncing it correctly. I hope we're pronouncing it correctly. I'm going to show you all the names there. You can feel free to phonetically pronounce them down below in the comments if we have butchered anyone's names. So, all right. Now, a little background. I played a little bit of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition, which I do know the 1st edition of Pathfinder was heavily based on, with some slight tweaks, but I never actually played 1st edition of Pathfinder, and you didn't play either, is that correct?
No, I don't think so.
So you were coming into this totally fresh, and I was just coming into this with a little bit of a foggy memory of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. So we're mostly fresh on this. So we're coming at this from a perspective of, this is a 2nd edition of a role-playing game, and without having played the 1st edition, why should we be excited about it? So first, let's go into the actual book. So the actual book is full color printing and absolutely, positively beautiful. It's organized in a very sensical way. You were the one, you were pointing out, you noticed it first when we were looking through this rule book about the, what would you call this?
It's just like, it's like an index almost. It's on the side of the pages, and it has the section you're in highlighted. So you can actually just flip through and quickly look for the section you're looking for.
It makes it so user-friendly for once you've read it and you're like, oh, I need that rule that would be in the Game Master section. Let me page through to the Game Mastering section. And it's very nicely done. So the first section you have is an introduction, which includes both an introduction to general role-playing, as well as an introduction to Pathfinder. Then you've got a section on ancestries and background. So at this point, you're jumping into character creation. So the ancestries are what they call the different races that you can choose to be in Pathfinder. And for the races, then you also have like subdivisions, like backgrounds you get to choose from those races to further customize them, which is really cool. So all of the races have these extra kind of options. So there's now you have it's basically you basically have the options of what were the classic 3rd edition character classes from 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons plus Goblin added in. So you've got Halfling, Gnome, Human, Elf, Dwarf, and then if you're wondering what happened to Half Elf and Half Orc, they are actually subdivisions of the human race, because you can pick to then be half orc or half elf if you're a human. And also there's rules in there, which is kind of interesting. They have rules on using those backgrounds of being either a half orc or a half elf on a different race than human. So you could be a goblin who's half orc, or you could be a gnome who's half elf, or a gnome who's half orc, or, I mean, whatever you want. And you can come up with reasons for how your parents, got together. So there's all sorts of, that is actually kind of a weird thing to think about. But anyway, you get where I'm going with this. So there's lots of different options for each of the races, which is really nice. The next thing we have is the classes. And as many options as there were for the ancestries and backgrounds, there's even more for the classes. So they've gone and taken the basic kind of classes you expect to see in a fantasy role-playing game. They've added some in. You've got one of my favorites and most interesting classes is the Alchemist, who basically can specialize in either making explosives or healing potions, or in some cases can even focus in on making mutagens, which allow them to make formulas that will turn them or other party members into animals or monsters, which is really neat. The alchemist is really cool. But then in addition to that, you've got the standard kind of classes like barbarian and rogue and wizard and sorcerer and druid and cleric. But then each of them have subdivisions. So like, now the cleric already had tons of subdivisions based on what gods it wants to worship, but they gave a lot of like subdivisions to the other classes too. Like rogue, you could choose to be a thief, which makes you like either a cat burglar or a safe cracker or a pickpocket kind of character if you want to be. But then they also had two others. They had one where you could be more of a silver tongue type character, like a con man. And then they had another one where you could be a ruffian that's more like a thug type character, kind of like, you know, your background was that you were like a mob enforcer, basically. So they really went the whole 9 yards here on customizing your character. There's unbelievable amounts of customization options between all the customization options for race and then class, and then of course then you've got the skills, you've got the feats, which are extra special abilities, you've of course got all the equipment you can buy, spells if you're a spell casting character, and that basically rounds out all of the sections that have to do with character creation. So now I haven't made a character in this this system yet, but you did, because you made one and you played it. What did you think of the character creation process and its multitude of options when making your character?
I thought it was very long.
Okay. It did take a while to make your character, because there are a lot of options.
It did.
Okay.
But well, the thing is that I knew what kind of character I wanted to make, and it still took like 3 hours.
No, 2. It was about 2 hours.
So if you're not sure what kind of character you want to make, I mean...
Well, you should really... most people should really think about what kind of character they want to make before they go to the appointment for making their character. That's usually the way it works.
I know.
So,
well, and I did know.
You did know, but I'm just saying that.
I mean, most there.
But you should assume it's. You should. This is not the system. But you're right. This is not the system. You're going to make a character real quick before playing the first night. You should set an appointment to make your characters on a previous day and be passing around the book and making your characters.
There were only, I think, 2 options where I was deciding and took a couple of minutes to decide, but it was really only between 2 things. I was like, I like this and I like this. And
now it's interesting that you say it that way, because you say you only took a couple minutes, but I, being there and not having anything to do, I went walking around the house. You took a while to decide on a couple of things. There were some tough decisions, but I do think now on the other side of that, I think it's really cool how many options and how much customization you can do, because it's not like, oh, I want to be a rogue, and you're like, oh, here's what all the rogues are like. It's no, here's a million options of what your rogue can be like, which is really, really kind of neat. So the next thing after that is we have the Age of Lost Omens, which gives you some background on the world and the different areas of the world and what's going on in the different areas. Then you have playing the game, which is the basic game rules, which they touch on before that in different areas, but it gives you the full actual rules for playing the game, except for some things which are saved for the game mastering section, like stuff about, for instance, how to create groups of monsters to fight and make sure they're fair for your party, and therefore then how much experience to give out and how much loot to give your party. Things like that are all in the game mastering section. And then there's a real nice appendix with lots of things to quick reference. Though with this, you said it was almost like an appendix on the side. I
said index.
An index. With this index on the side, I more often find myself
like
going to this.
A table of contents, almost. Well, it is. It's a table of contents that just tells you on each page what section you're in.
And because of how it's colored through the whole side of the page there, like if you see here where it says classes, it's colored through the whole side. So when you're flipping it, you can easily see what section you're in as you're flipping through. It's so good for looking stuff up. Also, now that we're talking about the structure of the book, I do want to draw attention to that this is a proper sewn hardcover binding. This is an incredibly well-produced product. I do not feel like this is flimsy at all. This is amazingly sturdy. The binding is really nice. I feel like this thing is going to last many years as long as you don't mishandle it.
I think the only thing that I would suggest to change, well, not really change, just add.
Go ahead.
Maybe add a couple ribbon bookmarks, like
Oh, that would have been great.
3 or 4 different ribbon bookmarks attached to the top, so you can.
Well, they did do a collector's edition. I don't know if they had anything like that in the collector's edition.
But usually, if they have a ribbon bookmark, it's just one. I was suggesting multiple because you're usually
going between different sections, yeah. Because you're like, oh, quick, let me look at this section, let me look at that section.
The side index table of contents thing does make it a little easier, and I guess you could use like those sticky tabs or something, like Post-it note tabs.
Yes. Oh, you definitely could. And I do. Or bookmarks or little things. In fact, I think I still have a bookmark in here right now. Yeah, I do. I have a bookmark. What did I have bookmarked now? I'm curious. I had bookmarked... difficulty classes. Yeah, because I like to keep this open for when dealing with challenges while we were role-playing. So that's why I had that bookmarked. Now, we've talked about how nice this book is. We think it's really well produced. The artwork is really, really pretty fantastic, with few exceptions. There's a couple artworks where I think, but most of it is unbelievably top notch. So I'm not going to complain because the cover art, if the cover art is any indication to you, I mean, the artwork in this book is just gorgeous. The production is amazing. I love the Pathfinder iconic character artworks they have for the different classes. And then they even have multiples of them to show you different sorts of characters you can make with the different classes, plus monsters and things like that. It's beautiful. It's a really well done book. But now we're going to talk a little bit about we already talked a little about character creation, but now we're going to talk about playing the game. So the playing of the game is, once you've created your character, and perhaps maybe right before we jump into playing the game, maybe we should talk about the character sheet.
Okay.
So before you end up playing your character, you gotta, of course, make your character and fill out a character sheet. Now there is one in here in case you need to Xerox it, but of course they have one available for free download online that you can print out. And so the character sheet is a total of possibly four pages, but it's not. A lot of these are not going to be needed for every character, because like they have a page that's literally just listing for spells, and you're not going to need the spells if you're not playing a magic user character. So that page will be right out there. So the first page is the one that everybody's going to need, and it's really well structured. So you have your what they call the ability scores up top. So your ability scores in this are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. 10 is considered an average score and gives you neither a bonus nor a negative to your rolls in the skills that are associated with that ability. Every pair of points above a 10, so an 11 and a 12, will give you +1 to that score. A 13 and a 14 will give you +2. And every 2 pair of points below that score of 10, so a 9 and an 8, will give you -1, whereas a 7 and a 6 would give you -2 to all skill rolls associated with that attribute. Then you've got areas here for your armor class, your saving throws, your hit points, your perception check, all of your skills, all of your weapon attacks and unarmed attacks and whatever you want, your weapon proficiencies, everything. And the really cool thing about the way this is structured is, so if you have a skill, it has sections here to say, okay, so acrobatics. Acrobatics has a section for where you put your total modifier for when you roll acrobatics. And then it has an equal sign, and it tells you what makes up that modifier. So it's your dexterity bonus. So let's say you have a +3 to dexterity, you put a +3 in there. Then it's your proficiency bonus, which if you're trained in it, you get +2 plus your current level. So at first level, +3 total. And you put that in there. There are higher levels of proficiency like expert and master and legendary, which give you even higher bonuses, and you get my gist. You have boxes to say if you are trained, expert, master, or legendary in it, so you know how big a bonus you're getting there. And then if you have a common item bonus that you would get with that skill all the time, you could put that there as well. And then you, of course, again, the first thing there, though, is the full bonus. So if your bonus is +6 to acrobatics, when the Game Master says, hey, roll acrobatics for what you want to do, you roll, what die do you always roll?
D20.
A D20, you add your bonus, and you tell the Game Master what you got. It's the character sheet is something I really wanted to draw attention to before we got into talking more about the rules, because even though there's a lot of crunch, a lot of rules, and a lot of customization to your character, and it can take you a while to make your character, the character sheet is put together in such a user-friendly way that when you're actually playing, it makes it easy. everything's right there. And I love they put spots for all the weapon attacks. So again, same thing. You have a bunch of different bonuses or maybe even penalties to your weapon attack, but the final bonus of just what it all is together, it's just right there. So if I say to you, what do you want to do? And you say, I'm going to attack with my longsword. You go, okay, go ahead. You look under longsword and see what your total bonus is. And you roll it and you just tell the game master what you got. He compares it to the armor class of the monster and you know if you hit or not. So I really, really want to draw attention to this amazingly well thought out, well put together character sheet. Did you have anything you wanted to add about the character sheet, or did you want to disagree with me on the character sheet?
No, I think the first page is really good.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is with the second page.
Okay, what's the issue with the second page?
My one complaint about every character sheet ever is that with like the skills and stuff that you gain from going up levels.
In this case, the feats. We're talking. The second page is where you list your feats.
Yeah, the feats for this or abilities. There's never any room to write down what they do next to them, and it's like, okay, so if you're gonna be a mage, you're gonna have
a million spells.
You're gonna have no, that's not where I'm going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you're gonna be a mage, you're gonna have four pages for your character. So what's like another page or two just to make this
bigger?
Have like put this on a separate page and make it so you can at least write what the things do, so you don't constantly forget. Okay,
that's fair, but I also say that you could always shorthand it in there, and if you can't...
if you write big...
Well, then don't write big.
Yeah, let's see you try and write small and legible.
I can write small.
And legible?
Small. But also, you could also write it on extra scrap paper or write it on the back. I'm talking about the main character sheet, the first page is what I'm...
Okay, you said the character sheet.
That's fair.
Which is all of them.
So you have a bit of a gripe with the fact that there's not enough room to write out all the feats. Okay, but what about the first?
I just said the first one was fine.
Fine or amazing?
What do you mean?
Well, because I think fine is fairly non-committal. This is an amazingly very user-friendly character sheet.
Okay.
Well, then say it's amazing.
Why? I think it's fine. Fine is like equivalent of amazing in Lynn speak. So.
Oh, okay. So then it's amazing. So the first page is amazing, but you have a gripe about the second page specifically because you feel like there should be more room for the feats. I'm going to show these pages up here right now so you guys can see what we're talking about. All right. So the way the main system works, we touched on it a little bit here. Every skill you roll is rolled with a d20. You're going to add your bonus for the particular skill or attack or whatever it might be. And there's either a target difficulty class set by your game master based on how tough it is, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Or if you're attacking a monster, it's going to be their armor class or bad guy. And the armor class is usually made out of a dexterity modifier and plus the armor that they're wearing, etc. But they solve all that for you in the bestiary. Not going to talk too much about the bestiary right now, but that's also very user-friendly because we're going to do another video just on the bestiary. So it's all just d20s. The other standard size polyhedral dice, the d4, d6, d8, d10, and d12, are only really used for damage. Every skill roll, every save, every other roll in this game is going to be a d20. Adding your bonus, which is very easy to see since you easily wrote it down on your character sheet, and seeing if you succeed, and that's really it. One thing they did add in, which I don't know if it was in the first edition. I don't think it was. I know it wasn't in 3.5. Was they added in hero points, which are something that are very similar to bennies from Savage Worlds. If you've ever played Savage Worlds, you start with one for free. And then every time you do something really cool or really in character or really epic, your game master can give you another one. And you can trade one in to get a re-roll on an important roll. Like when you did that during an attack one time. You were fighting someone you kept missing. And you traded in several bennies until you hit and you hit hard.
You mean hero points?
Hero points, yeah. Hero points. I'm mixing up the terms now. So, which I think that was a great idea to add those in because it was a brilliant idea when they had them in Savage Worlds, and it's just as good an idea to emulate that good idea here. So I have no problem with them taking it. I think I think it's such a good idea. I think most systems should have them. I think they're a really cool thing. It gives you something to strive for other than just experience points. Do something really cool, do something really in character, and your game master can reward you with a hero point, and that's awesome. The other cool thing about the hero points is it can avoid you from losing your character through an unlucky circumstance. As long as you have at least one hero point left and your character is going to die, you can actually save them from death by trading in all your hero points to recover, which is kind of neat. So you always want to keep at least one in the wings, to keep you from losing your character. Obviously, this is meant to be not super lethal because of those. This is meant to be a game where you get a character and you keep playing that character and you advance the character and the character doesn't die until you are sick of that character and want to talk to the game master about writing them out and make a new character. And that'll be up to you. But yeah, so even though there's a lot of customization and a lot of crunch and a lot of interesting rules in here, they've made it very user-friendly in actually how it plays. Because as long as it took like 2 hours to make your character, but how long did it take me to explain to you how to actually play the game when we sat down to play it?
I don't know.
It was like 5-10 minutes.
I didn't keep track.
But it was quick. It was like, because we did it one morning when the first time we tried out the rules, and we were like, it was like 5-10 minutes, and then we played. It's very, very user-friendly, very easy to play. So now, anything I missed? Anything you want to talk about when it comes to either the core rulebook or the game system contained therein?
No.
You good? Have we addressed it? Did you want to counterpoint or add anything else to anything else that I've talked about?
No.
Okay, so now we're gonna rate it, and we're gonna talk about what went into our rating, why we chose to rate it, where we rated it. So, do you want to go first or second for your rating?
You can go first.
I can go first. All right. So I don't do this often, but I'm giving it a perfect 10. This is a 10 for me for a lot of reasons. And I struggled with this because I was like, sometimes I feel like no game is absolutely perfect, but holy crud, did they really do a lot of work on this and really iron out all of the issues. So first off, I like games that are very easy to play. I like games that are easy to pick up, but at the same time, I like games with a lot of rules that can bring out the war gamer of me and make me think about combinations of different effects and how awesome they can be. Like, oh, if I get this ability with this spell, I can do this really awesome, cool thing. And in some strange way, they managed to do both. The game is really easy to play, even though it's full of so many different cool rule combinations. The way they made the character sheet and the basic rules so easy to pick up and play and so easy to understand, while still keeping in so much customization in the rules, blew me away, combined with the fact that the production on this book is about the best I have ever seen on a role-playing game product, not including collector's editions. Just for a standard edition game, this is, it's sturdy, beautiful artwork, wonderful production, full color, and they packed a lot into this book. This book is an intimidating 637 pages, 638 if you include the open gaming license on the back, 637 pages of stuff, and it can seem a bit intimidating, but actually I shot through this in less than a week. Because it was fun to read. I got really interested in reading about a lot of the characters, and the world, and the rules, and was immediately gripped, and I couldn't wait to try it. So I know I'm raving a lot. But that's because I really like it. I actually am hoping to get a long-term Pathfinder group going in the future, which I will game master. I can't wait to hopefully do that. But it's phenomenal. It's if you like standard sword and sorcery role-playing games, but want to try something other than Dungeons and Dragons, which is of course the game that is most well known for doing that standard sword and sorcery game, check out Pathfinder. Pathfinder Second Edition is really fantastic. Now to you. How many stars are you going to give it?
I'm going to give it 8.
Okay, that's still really high. So what went into your rating of an 8?
Well, one was how the first page of the character sheet was structured.
So you do think it's fantastic?
Yeah, the first page of the character sheet.
Okay. Because it's very user-friendly.
Yeah, because, and also it's only the one die that you use to roll.
Yeah.
So it made it very easy, similar to Savage Worlds, where you
see the dice.
You see what die you roll. You do roll different ones, but it's noted which one you roll, and it never changes unless you change it.
Right.
And And that was about it.
So just how user-friendly it is then
Yeah.
is really why you went 8. 8 is really high. I gave it a 10, which is amazingly high. I mean, that's a perfect score. So this is a 2 thumbs way up review from us here at the Board Game Captain. It is 18 total stars between the two of us. I think we can safely say that we highly recommend Pathfinder Second Edition. You really enjoyed it as a player. I really enjoyed it as a game master. And yeah, if you are looking for a game other than Dungeons and Dragons, a game system to do a standard sword and sorcery type campaign with, and you want one that is both lots of customization and lots of rules to try to figure out what you want to do best with your character and really optimize combinations while still being really streamlined and easy to play and easy to understand and easy to teach, yeah, this gives you the best of both worlds. And I think that's what's most important and why I'm giving it 10 out of 10 stars. So that is Pathfinder Second Edition Core Rules. If you enjoyed this review and you'd like to see us do more role-playing game product reviews like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.